crap. I ain't pull up the dang on intro. That's on me. Hold up. He asked me, was I ready? I said, yeah. Oh, my mind was ready, but I was not actually ready. All right, here we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Culture Uncut, the podcast where no topic is off limits and every conversation cuts straight to the core. I'm your host, Nas the Realtor, here with Xavier and AD because he's about those dollars. And we're going to give you the uncut madness, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Well, at least how we see it anyway. From generational wealth to navigating relationships with new age women and even politics that affects us every day. It's raw, it's real, it's us. Let's cut up. What you got, X?
All right, so we got three topics for today. The first topic was requested by somebody who's not even here, but it's the freedom of speech topic. The second topic is congressional stock banning. We got some movement on Capitol Hill about whether or not Congress should be able to trade stocks. And third one, if we have time, is the HBCU funding with good old Donald Trump. All right, so the order, let's start. We could just go left and right. At least on my screen is Nas, Adonis, and then me for this first one, freedom of speech. Actually, let me play this clip first. Just have to, you know, contextualize this real quick. All right, can y'all see that? This YouTube video.
Yep.
All right.
Should
Can't
have
hear
sound?
it though.
Shit.
Watch it.
All right, yeah. Long video. I wanted to play that whole thing just so everything's out on the table. Who wants to go first on this one?
I'll take it. um, yeah, I mean, it doubles back on what we talked about last week. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. I think we can all agree that the death, in a sense of dying for free speech, is unwarranted, uncalled for, and it should never escalate to that. But I think the bigger thing that should be discussed outside of the death, right? Because that is the biggest thing ultimately. This notion that everyone was championing Charlie Kirk for free speech, and yet we are currently seeing the backlash of people trying to censor someone's opinion of his death, right? And so there's debate whether hate speech should be protected or not. And last I checked, hate speech is something that is supported through the Constitution. And so if you're championing Charlie Kirk for his principles and the things that he stood up for, it's almost hypocritical for you to then try to censor someone for being in opposition of what Charlie Kirk stood for. It's a little weird, right? And I think it's that silver lining where now the shoe's on the other foot and you get to see the true character of the people that supported Charlie Kirk. And I don't think that is something that is a conservative position. I don't think that's something that's a white position, a white person's position. I think what we are seeing is the intersection between being a white conservative play out in America and them really not being able to contend with the fact that, like, every time you point the finger and say that someone is doing something bad in regards to Charlie Kirk's death, they turn around and do the same thing on, another regard. And so this is watching it all play out.
I guess I'm
You can go.
next.
I
So,
have nothing.
yeah, I mean, my biggest thing with this is to be consistent, right? Research this week. I did see,
I can't hardly hear
Charlie
you,
Kirk actually
Adonis.
had a
Can you hear
tweet
me,
on
Nas?
Twitter about free speech
Nah,
and
I
how he
can't.
believed.
It's that hotel Wi-Fi. Trash.
It's trash. That boy
You should have
looks like
stayed at the
he's
Marriott,
got
big dog.
5
I
pixels
got
on
me.
the screen right now.
Oh, that's
Would
my
have never
fault.
happened at the Marriott.
Sorry. Hey, this is my first time ever having anything. But yeah, I mean, I think just be consistent, right? I don't like the fact that resources are being put to it. And I don't like the fact that there is money or resources being put to it. But, again, I think he was a big advocate for free speech as well. And funny enough, funny enough, one of the things I don't like that, the U.S. was going towards was cancel culture, right? And that was a big thing that I actually didn't agree with in terms of like, like it was just, you say the wrong thing and you get, it could be the smallest thing, you end up getting consequences for it. So I believe that on both sides, right? Like, um, when it was the left and they were using cancel culture against it, I didn't believe in that, but I do the same thing. Same thing with here, though. I don't believe in it on this side as well. So it's kind of my biggest thing. I mean, obviously, I think you should be mindful of what you say and not, no one should mock a deaf, but at the same time, you know, like who, like the judge of this is like, it leaves a lot to be determined in terms of like what is saying too much, what is offensive, what is not offensive. And that's kind of why I believe in free speech as in a whole, right? Because who, like, it could be something he just said that they just said. Is that hate speech, or would that be considered hate speech? Is that grounds to give consequences to somebody if they just reposted or just said what he said in the past? Or that's why I think free speech just should be totally free across the board, because there's no gauge of what's the lever for hateful versus, yeah, just.
All right. So the reason why I initially was hesitant to talk about this on the podcast, First Amendment is a very complicated amendment, right? There's many. The freedom of speech is not an absolute right in America. You don't have the right to say whatever you want whenever you want, right? The place you say it matters, what you say matters, and who's trying to stop you from saying it matters, right? It matters if the government is trying to stop you from saying something versus a private company. Um, Generally, private companies going to have more leeway to enforce, you know, less speech on its employees, and the government's generally going to be not able to stop a private citizen from saying certain things, right? And then if that private citizen is also an employee of the government, then the government has more control over that employee. But like for instance, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't incite violence, obscene speech, uh, hate speech, like you said. Right? There's many types of speech that are not protected by the First Amendment. The question is whether or not this should be that type of speech. In my opinion, what is happening is people are being punished by public governments, local, city, and federal, well, not federal yet, but the Pete. I don't know if it showed Pete Hegseth directive to investigate military officers or service members, um, but and then there's private, penalties. The question is whether or not this speech is one of those types of speech that should be censored. In my opinion, this type of speech is political, is celebrating or encouraging political violence, um, which the left has already taken to such an extreme that it created these assassination attempts in the first place. And I'm talking about not just Charlie Kirk, the two on Donald Trump. The rhetoric from the left, dang, the rhetoric from the left is so corrosive that people on the left think that speaking is no longer an avenue for change, that violence must be carried out. And so we do have to put a stop to that at some point. Like Adonis said before he cut out, nobody agrees with cancel culture. If you just expressing an opinion that people don't like, that's one thing. What makes it different is when you celebrating violence, bro. Celebrating violence against someone who is literally in the quote unquote Greek form looking for a debate speech and was shot for what he was saying. That is not American. And so it does call into question that if a military officer is celebrating that type of speech, how could you truly carry out your function when the principle is so antithetical to American principles? So
Um, I do want to push back a bit because one, what we've seen across America and the death of George Floyd, um, for many people, obviously not from the black community, but from other communities, we've seen the celebration and the mockery of being held down to the point that you are suffocated. Uh, There was even people in Halloween costumes. No one went after these people. No one criticized these people. No one did anything, right? And we can go down to semantics and say, well, this wasn't politically motivated or anything along those lines, but it very much hit the hearts and minds of many American citizens, and yet there was no backlash. I would also like to hit on the fact that shit. What was I about to say? I didn't lost drew a blank. I talked about George Floyd. Oh, this idea that no one should celebrate death. I can agree with that. That no one should like actually out here champion death. But the fact that people are now being censored for the death of Charlie Kirk. Last I checked, Americans from all walks of life celebrated the death of Bin Laden. Right? Then this man wasn't an American, sure. This man, we could say, was a monster, sure. But in some regards, people can look at the insensitive
Bro,
rhetoric that Charlie Kirk pushed as very insensitive and
this man
somewhat
just
borderline
compared Charlie
monster.
Kirk to Osama bin Laden, bro.
I did. And so
Bro,
you got to
come on
understand.
now.
Listen. You got to understand. Osama bin Laden went as far as the actual act of taking someone else's life. Charlie Kirk pushed the narrative that it was okay to see someone as inferior, right? And that is the precipice to start
That's
that
just your
same type
opinion,
of
bro.
violence.
That's
It's
just your
not an opinion. Charlie Kirk.
Wait, let's just be clear.
Let me
It is
finish.
1000%
I gave you a chance to
true.
talk. You gotta let me finish my thought.
Hold on, no.
Let me finish my
What
thought.
happened to not
Let me finish my
allowing
thought.
false narratives?
Let me finish my thought.
False narrative.
Thank
False
you.
narrative.
Let me
I
finish
can't
my
allow
thought.
you. I can't
You gotta
allow
let me
you
finish my
to
thought.
push a false narrative.
You got that is not a false narrative.
That is
Charlie
a false.
Kirk
Prove
literally
it.
said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to question whether he deserves the job or not.
He also said before that it was because DEI does not prioritize merit and it prioritizes skin color. That's why it doesn't matter if any person is in
DEI
a
never
position
prioritized
because of
skin color over
DEI.
merit. DEI never prioritized
Brother, I'm just telling
skin
you
color
what the
over
clip.
merit.
I'm just telling you what Charlie
It
Kirk
doesn't
said.
matter. It was
I'm
all
telling you what Charlie
false.
Kirk. So if you're gonna quote Charlie Kirk, quote him all the way.
I quoted him. It was all false.
It wasn't because
Where
of his
does it
skin
say
color.
that DEI
It was because of
prioritizes-
DEI.
And what document does it say DEI prioritizes skin color over merit?
Because you are making space for people with certain skin color, regardless of their merit. That's what DEI was.
Where
That's what the
does it
Supreme
say
Court
prioritizes
affirmed.
skin color over
That's
merit?
what the Supreme Court affirmed when they overturned affirmative action in DEI programs. That
Pull
it was
up the black and white document
discriminatory
that says
racial.
for DEI, we are going to prioritize
Bro,
skin color.
you want me to
merit.
pull up the freaking airline document? That's not even feasible. That's actually disingenuous.
Pull up any document that says for DEI initiatives, we're going to prioritize skin color over merit.
Yes, they say race, gender, color.
Pull up the
all those
document
things.
that
I'm not
says,
pulling it up right now
because it doesn't exist.
DEI is.
It doesn't exist.
DEI is.
It doesn't exist, Xavier.
Are you, bro? Do not be disingenuous, bro. That's what DEI was. That's what affirmative action is. That's nonsensical for you to argue that. What do you think is happening?
Xavier made a fool of himself on the podcast. Next topic.
All right, this man is I'll pull up the DEI thing. Bro.
Exactly. Xavier, the DEI Army officer, or Xavier, the DEI lawyer. Yeah, you're only a lawyer because of DEI initiatives. You're only a Army officer because you barely passed the merit test, but because you were black, we had to make you an officer. Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah. So here are the examples of diversity policies in major companies, right? That they're rolling back now, but obviously this will show you what they had in place. IBM shifted its supplier diversity.
DEI initiative have to do with anything we just discussed?
Yeah, so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you said DEI policies had nothing to do with a preference for race over merit, and I'm showing you that these policies do. This is evidence that those DEI policies existed, and this is what you asked for me to pull up. So IBM shifted its supplier diversity goals away from race and gender. Wow. It's almost like they included race and gender in their preference to focus on all small business.
Where does it say over merit? You're missing the key piece of
diversity
what you said.
Goes away from race and gender. That's what that means. They were prioritizing race and gender over merit.
No. Xavier,
right?
Xavier, understand. If someone makes a post, right? Just listen. If someone makes a post for a job and the requirements for the job is a master's degree and 10 years of experience, right? And you got two people that go for the job. both have master's degrees and both have 10 years of experience, right? All this is saying with DEI initiatives is that we're going to prioritize giving someone that's black the chance to take this
We're
job
gonna do
as
what?
opposed to giving it
Wait,
to the
wait. What
white
was that
person.
last sentence you
They're
just
both
said?
equally qualified, but it's not merit at that point. We both had the same
Wait,
resume.
wait. Okay, pull up something that proves that.
Pull up something that proves that they're prioritizing
No, no,
race over
no, no.
merit.
You made a claim.
I'm
Support your
asking
claim.
you to do that. You still
No, no,
haven't
no,
done
no,
it.
no. I just pulled it
Where
up.
is that says merit?
I just pulled it up.
Where does it say merit?
Support
Xavier?
your claim.
You
Support your
still
claim.
haven't supported the first claim. Where
Support
does
your
it say
claim, bro.
merit?
You
Where
just
does it
made a
say merit?
positive claim, right?
Where
You
does
made
it
the
say
positive
merit?
claim that even in DEI, there still is a baseline qualification.
Xavier,
Right? Which
where
I
does it
didn't
say
even
merit?
argue with at the beginning.
Where does it say
You're
merit?
just saying that, right? Pull
Where
up
does it say
something
merit?
that pulls it up. If you
What
don't
do
want
you
to pull it
mean?
up,
The
that's
fact
fine.
that
Right?
you're
So
arguing
I'm
that
just
race
going to
is
continue
prioritized over
reading
merit
why
proves my
you're
point.
wrong, right? So let's go to
You still
Victoria's
haven't said
Secret
anything about
is
merit.
can I finish? Because you don't want to pull it up, right? I'm showing the evidence. Can I
You
finish?
haven't showed shit yet. You
Yeah,
got
yeah.
stuff on
Okay,
a screen.
okay. Yeah. Victoria's Secret is reevaluating a supplier diversity goal and halting a goal to promote a certain percentage of black workers. Right? Halting a goal to promote a certain percentage of black workers. That's literally what their goal was. A Victoria's Secret representative told Bloomberg a shift for the company that made investments in DEI throughout the 2020s following a reported workplace harassment scandal, as well as controversy and boycotts over an alleged lack of body type diversity amongst its models, right? There's DEI for females, right? State Street had a policy wanting to be 30% female. You know, Warner Brothers is now rolling back DI programs for inclusion. Goldman Sachs had a program. Like these programs existed. Diversity targets tied to race and gender and hiring paramount. That's paramount. And the company has begun removing DI language from its website. All these things, right? Pepsi, JP Morgan, just example after example of me showing you where DEI programs were and how they preferred certain race categories over others. Nowhere did I say that the black people weren't at least somewhat qualified. The whole point is that if they are at least in the pool, their race matters, and that is racial discrimination.
Whoa. Let's let the third party on the call jump in on this. Adonis, has Xavier said anything to in support of his claim, which is that DEI prioritized race and gender over merit? Does anything that he just read has anything to do with merit? He's saying he's making the
No.
claim,
Just to
both
be
him
clear,
and Charlie
my
Kirk,
initial claim,
that
right?
people were
Hold
more
on, can I speak for
qualified for the
myself?
job over the DEI initiative. That's what you're saying.
The reason why DEI scared Charlie Kirk, which is the quote you took out of context, right, is he was attacking DEI and saying that if he sees someone of a minority complexion, which he said black in that example, that was because they may not be as qualified as somebody else would have been had they gotten the spot, right? We're not saying that this person doesn't have a pilot license. You have to be fucking stupid to think that Charlie Kirk was saying this guy doesn't have a pilot license. What he was saying is that there could have been a more qualified person for the job, but they got that job due to diversity targets of race and gender.
You are adding to Charlie Kirk's argument by saying that there could have been a more
That's
qualified
what DEI
person.
is. So if you
No,
truly
no, it's
understood
not. DEI is saying that I'm going to prioritize.
Prove it. Pull something up. Pull something up.
DEI is going to prioritize giving the people of color a fair shake.
You're just talking out your ass.
I'm
pull
not.
something up. Pull something up or shut up.
You didn't prove nothing. Nothing you put up made sense
pull something up
about the argument.
Pull something up. I pull something up. It showed race and gender was prioritized. Pull something up. Yeah. You just talking out your ass. Go ahead, Don.
X, stop fucking muting me.
I didn't even mute you. I was actually talking to you. Yeah. So the centers of DEI, affirmative action, aren't saying racism and prejudice don't exist. What they're saying is that in certain jobs, in certain fields, there can be no deviation from having the best people for the best job, right? From a black person perspective, why you should also be against DEI is because you should not want to be anywhere that you are not wanted, right? the notion that you need to beg white people for jobs is humiliating to not only yourself but your entire race, right? There's a reason why, like post slavery, prior to the great programs, we saw an influx of black wealth in this country that, quite frankly, we've never seen before. It's because we did not
When did you
depend
see this black wealth? Can you say that timeline again?
post slavery, right before the great social programs, right? We have, these big black communities, black doctors, black lawyers, black bankers, right? We were coming together, and then desegregation, and some could argue, really hampered that progress, right? We became dependent on white people. Then we become dependent on programs like DI because we can't get jobs in white neighborhoods where people are racist to you, right? Now you're dependent on the government going in and telling these private businesses to hire you to go to your schools or whatnot. So my point is, we are just as competent, right? There's nothing about our skin color makes us less incompetent than a white person. What we cannot have is our credibility be undermined by allowing a white person to say, we hired you because of your skin color. Like, that is like disappointing. That is humiliating. That program should never exist. We are just as good. We can get into those same places without the program.
Hey, let me.
Start your own shit.
Can I counter? Let me counter. So I don't agree with it, and here's why.
Nash, did you pull up anything that supports your evidence, your
Come
claim
on,
so
here we
far?
go.
Okay.
So when we talk about all the nonsense Xavier just spat out of his mouth, right? Coming out of slavery, black people were the most trained laborers in America's economy, right? They were craftsmen, they were croppers, they were all these things, and so of course they came into this society and were more skilled and were taking a bunch of jobs, but they were still treated very unfairly. And whenever the white man that was controlling the purse strings wanted to block them out of the economy, they did so. And then, so what did black people do? They did exactly what Xavier just said: build your own and do your own thing. And what have history showed us? Marcus Garvey tore him down from the inside. Malcolm X tore him down from the inside. Tulsa, Oklahoma burned it down, which was a military operation. Bombs were dropped from planes, right? Durham, North Carolina, tore down from the inside. And the list goes on. And so this notion that you could just build your own is false in America. And the FBI sanctioned some of the hits. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, so Nasir brings up points of where white people stifled black growth. All that's true, right? Nobody's denying that. The issue is that doesn't change the motivation, the underlying motivation that should still be present in the black community. Obviously, we should not let somebody succeed in that, and they would succeed if we just say, "Oh, let's not try to build up our own stuff." What Nasir just said was, "Hey, white people tried to stop us, so we should just not do it anymore and allow the white people to infiltrate our communities and give us jobs and stuff." No, bro. Simply because they did that in the past does not mean we should stop striving for that in the future. What you just said was irrelevant.
At what point did I say we should stop trying?
That's what you're implying. You're
No,
implying
no,
that
no.
it's not possible.
Adonis,
Wait,
did you
wait,
hear me?
wait. If you're implying that it's not possible, why did you bring it up?
I didn't say it wasn't possible. I said that the systems have been against us. And so for you to say that affirmative action had no place is false. It was
Wait, wait,
protecting
wait. I
black
never said
people,
that.
and
I never said that. You just
that's
put
what
words
you're
in my mouth.
implying. That's what you just said I
No, no,
implied. I
no.
implied something, you implied
I'm
something.
saying I'm saying you brought up instances of white people destroying black growth, and that can only be relevant if you're saying that should matter to us now. That does not matter to us now. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's particularly if you're gonna have black people amongst white people in that type of numbers, right? Uh, at that time, when the sentiment was much stronger than it is today, it was
What's
definitely needed if
changed?
you wanted them to be in that environment. What's changed is that we shouldn't want to be in that environment. What I've said 2 times already. I personally don't care. See, that's the difference between a lot of people. I won't even say Nasir and Nick. I don't care if somebody doesn't like me, right? I'm gonna go get my own. right? One way or another. Now, are there ways that white people can stifle your growth? Yes. Nobody's saying that you're invincible or invulnerable. What we're saying is that's got to be the mindset no matter what, right?
We need some
So
protections, but for the
everybody's
record,
free to lead.
I
Okay.
just want to be clear real quick that my opinions when I refer to the white race, right? Let's be clear. I'm not referring to everyone that all people that are classify themselves as Caucasians. That is not the sentiment, right? I want to be clear that when I say people, I'm referring to people that couldn't be considered as racist and or prejudiced. I'm not saying blanket statement all white people. I'm referring specifically to people that want to marginalize different groups because they are not of the same background.
Yeah, and I hope that that actually becomes the case. You know, I truly believe that I could lead the black community in a more promising direction. What we should do, number one, is implement trade schools back into high schools. We need to reestablish a blue collar mentality in the black population. Once we can establish these jobs, which are, in my opinion, going to be more and more high paying, the more and more people refuse to work these jobs, right? You got people moving towards those jobs. Society in general is moving less hands on into a more uh, multifaceted society, let's say, right? Where blue collar jobs are less favored. But we will always need somebody to go out and check the generator. We will always need somebody to go out and pull the oil from the ground, right? Or to at least maintain the machines that pull the oil from the ground. If we can get into those tech, manufacturing jobs, I think we have a strong ability. That's why I was such a big proponent of the tariffs that Donald Trump implemented, which encourages businesses, foreign and domestic, to keep manufacturing intra US, right? Keep those factories. We, in my opinion, black people had our greatest amount of wealth when we were the Ford factory workers, when we got, work 20 years, get the pension, 20, 30 years, get the pension, allowing one parent to sustain a two-parent household with two or three kids off of one salary, right? That's when we had the heyday, in my opinion. No, were we treated as good as we were supposed to? I'm not saying racism didn't exist. I'm saying economically, that was a good time for us. Um, Another thing I would say is
For the
stop
viewers,
aborting
the
your
timeline
kids.
he's referring to is the 1940s and 50s for clarity. But continue, X.
Thank you. So the other thing we got to do is stop aborting our kids. Right now, the most dangerous place a black person can be is in their mother's womb. This matters because the population of black people has decreased from 13% down to 11% over the past decade.
Hold up, bro.
We
Hold
are
up.
getting
Hold up. Hold up.
no, no,
Where
no,
did
no.
that
Let
come
me
from?
finish. Let
Like,
me
where did that?
finish. I'm
Where
cooking.
did
Let
that
me
come
finish.
from, bro? Like,
I'm cooking. Let me finish, bro. I did. That's true.
from
It's
like,
true.
how did he
It's a
get to this
mass.
topic? Like,
It's a mass genocide, bro. That's fucked up, man.
do you know what this man was about to ask?
That's fucked up. He's basically implying that
bro,
they're better off
bro,
dead.
bro.
Anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because population numbers are your voice in America. When we have our population surpassed by Hispanics, um, you know, that really hurts our political capital as a group. So when we eventually, in the future, if possible, we ever come together as a group and decide to vote, what's in the best interest of the black community, our voice is going to matter a lot less now because we're just being outpaced. And also, immigration reform is crucial to the black community, preventing these people from coming into this country, outpacing our population, or at least allowing more Africans to come in, right? I won't get into the whole black versus African thing, but it seems to be whenever immigrants are allowed into the country, they are not a black, tone. Even Haitian immigrants after, or Haitian refugees, I should say, after the natural disasters were turned away, thousands and hundreds of thousands of Mexican or Hispanic illegal aliens were allowed into this country due to Joe Biden's poor immigration policy, right? To me, that was blatant racism. Now, when I say something is racist, I truly mean it. I mean, he saw Haitian refugees who did not have houses or clean water, turn them away while allowing, by having a lax border, land crossings. That is racist, right? But those are the three things I would say should be uh, the priority for the black community and the political agenda. Like money, I think we have enough government funding as it is. I mean, we're going to talk about it's just a shift. It's a shift. We already are getting enough instead of having it go to like I don't know, like African American literature studies, which I think is important. Don't get me wrong, but it should not be as important as learning how electricity works or learning plumbing, carpentry, steel making.
Can I
All those things I think are more important.
can I chime in real quick? So, while there was some things that I do not align with X on, uh, this notion that we need to include trades back into the school district, 100% X. I think kudos to that opinion because I am 100% in line with that. That is when we seen the heyday for Black people when we were leading the trades. But I think more importantly, and X kind of touched on it, but he went down a different avenue slightly. He went to abortions. I would say there needs to be a higher emphasis of marriage in the Black community, which you can argue if we have a higher emphasis on marriage, you will see less abortions. Um, but I think the emphasis should be on marriage. Black men should be exalting these Black queens, and Black queens should be loving the ground that they man walk on, type of deal. And it should be a mutual understanding that we are in this together, and that the goal is to, create generational wealth.
No, bro. Well, we still disagree fundamentally on who Charlie Kirk was as a person. Which Charlie Kirk, yeah, Candace Owens. Yeah, we're not here. Let's not relitigate Charlie Kirk's character, right? I don't want to do that. Yeah, it's not contextualized. And if you actually go back and listen to the full clips of each and every one of the clips he says, right, you'll understand that
Yeah, he wanted to unalive Joe Biden. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I didn't see that clip. If you want to pull it up and relitigate it some other time, that's fine. But yeah.
What's the next topic?
Well, to be fair, we got off on a tangent. We never really answered the original question of that topic. Uh, but we, yeah, yeah. So, what I want to say is that you are not able to say whatever you want whenever you want. Right? There are limits to what you can say, even if the government if you work for the government or work for a private company. You just have to learn what that is. Now, the federal government, like P. Hegseth, is not going to be able to just fire a service member because they made some Charlie Kirk post. Like they have more rights than that, but it's less rights than another government employee who's not a military service member, and they have less rights than a private citizen, right? And so you just have to keep that in mind. Like who's trying to monitor and censor the speech. And I think it matters too what type of government official it is. Because some government officials are literally government officials because of their opinion, right? We got like senators, congressmen, presidents. They are in place because the people like their opinion on certain things. You mean once you're in position? But that's not true though, because when legislation comes across your desk, you have to be slanted, right? In fact, if you're not slanted and biased, are you truly representing your constituency who voted for you to enact that thing or be a certain way?
I don't agree. We should get off the topic, but you should not be insensitive to another side because you are one side, right? And what we've seen is that in a lot of Trump's antics, his far right opinion makes him insensitive to some of the left opinions. And the same argument can be made for some people on the left about the right. But if you are holding the presidential office, you must, in some degree, have decorum. And what we've seen is that Trump lacks that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah, you're right. I agree with that. It's very divisive language. But I do think that the left's language is always more concerning. I mean, it's just like a call to violence, it seems, on multiple occasions, rather than like we just want to be left alone. But
I think we can move to the next topic, but I do think it's interesting, right? That like that we always say that the left, or not we, right? Conservatives always make the point that the left is more divisive. Yet when it comes to like atrocities, right, where someone's taking unaliving somebody, it's always committed by someone on the right.
what? That was literally
In most
asinine.
cases, I mean, think of
That's not true. It's
think
always
of an
some trans person
assassination.
saying that, doing that shit.
Just hear me out. Think of an assassination, right?
The
Where you can
last three,
immediately say that was somebody from the left.
the last three.
What last three?
Charlie Kirk was done by somebody on the left. Donald
No,
Trump's two
no, it wasn't.
assassinations.
It was found that he was a his family was all conservative. He was a conservative.
No, oh my bro, oh my fucking god, bro. This nigga is actually fucking stupid, bro. Like you actually just are. Okay, go ahead. That's true. Well, let's be
Bro, you are the
1,000%
foundation.
clear.
You are
Let's
the
be
foundation
1,000%
that you grew
clear.
up in.
There's many left people who grow up in conservative. That's actually like one of the reasons why they say they became left is because they couldn't live with their parents, and then they got into school and developed this victim mentality. But let's just be clear about Tyler Robinson. Who had a trans partner and lived with a trans partner. That man was not conservative. You can go to his post, the Discord. He is what you would call a leftist. Well, technically, all leftist ideologies are byproducts of. You don't start with leftist ideology. You start with conservatism, and then somebody thinks they realize something and wakes up. That's why they call it the woke left, and then they become left. You never start left.
That's not true.
You could say there's some flaw with conservative ideology where people think that they have to change from conservative ideology in the first place, right? Yeah. We could say that, yeah. But when you think about Christianity, you be like, Christianity is the heart of conservatism, and you could say, "Oh, I don't want to be Christian because I don't want to not sin. I like porn. I like drinking, or any sin out there." And for you to just call your sin woke, just for you to call your sin woke does not mean that it's actually true.
You're wild, X. You're wild.
Well,
To
let me
that
ask
point,
you
let me
this:
let me
when
make
you
2
say
points.
somebody's a good person, what frame of reference are you basing that off of?
Hold on. Let me make 2 points real quick as we talk about like the not a good person and all the other stuff that's been said, right? I wish I could find the YouTube clip, but there was a white male that went viral. He's a liberal. He grew up in a conservative household, and he was basically saying that like I had to drop the conservative rhetoric because what conservatives typically do in America is decide which sin is greater than a sin, right? And that falls down a very bad line because as you're pointing the finger, 4 fingers are pointing back, right? And so the point he was getting at is that if I, uh, you know, stole something from a store or if I committed adultery versus the transgender person that has some issues, the sin is the same. It's a sin, right? But what conservatives do is and this is the argument he was making. I thought it was a pretty interesting topic because he grew up in a conservative household. Is that we can't accept this conservative at all. I mean, we can't accept this transgender person at all. And I think when we start to make these type of like false
Wait,
claims,
who said that?
This is what he was saying that like his conservative background would had taught him to
Who said
believe
that?
the liberal.
Oh, Tyler Robinson. Are you talking about the assassin?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. I'm tripping.
There was there was a white male that went viral. He's a liberal. He grew up in a conservative household. And the point he was making is that no sin is greater than another sin. Sin is sin, and it should all be weighed the same. And so his point was, we can't judge the transgender worse than we would judge, and we shouldn't judge anyone, right? But he was saying that like we can't weigh the sin of the transgender over the sin of the adulterer or over the sin of the person that stole something, right? It's still sin. The problem is there is a hierarchy to sin with most conservatives, right?
And the
Um,
reason why. Oh, go ahead.
but let me finish. And so he concluded the his post with one of his last comments being what he observed in his community and more importantly in his church when he was a young teen with the death of Martin Luther King. He said that in his community it was celebrated, and even more so, his pastor uh, was excited about the fact that Martin Luther King was unalived. And that's when he ultimately was like, I can't support this right rhetoric. And so, again, That does not mean that is the sentiments of conservatives. But what we've seen is that when you have that intersectionality between being both white and a conservative, sometimes what we've seen is that that group has a lot of bad seeds.
That's actually not in the Bible. No,
Not
that's
directly, not directly, but it is a scripture that lends to that sentiment, but it is that not direct language. It is because you're not
race
treating your
is
thy
a
neighbor.
construct. Race is a construct that was created in the 1700s, but if you can try to extrapolate and infer from that, but obviously, probably acting on racism is a sin for sure.
For sure, 100%.
Um,
Hey, can we
my
not do
point
the other
in
two
asking
topics?
you,
Because it's getting late. But go ahead.
yeah, my point in bringing that up is that if you think somebody can be Christian and not good, then you need to actually check yourself because God is the standard of goodness, right? And so when we say something is good, we just mean it's close to God. And when something's evil, it's far away from God, far away from the Word. So if you
Agreed.
say a Christian is evil, then what standard are you using to judge good and evil? Because it's clearly not God. Now,
I
are
think
Christians
I think that's
perfect?
I think that's a
No.
good
Let me
point.
finish. Let me finish. Yeah.
All right, keep going.
So are
Keep going.
Christians perfect? No. Christians sin all the time. But it's the effort to be like God, to be like Christ is, like what we're here for. And Nas, you were saying that certain Christians were celebratory of Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. Um, Clearly, that is not in line with conservatism. That is not in line with Charlie Kirk or Charlie Kirk's message or with Christianity. That is against conservatism, right? We want life to succeed. We want flourishment. We want uh, expression of ideas in a safe way, which all Martin Luther King was about. To advocate for someone's death over political speeches, not Christian.
You know, I can agree. I can agree with a lot of what you said. And this is actually a good point, right? Because I just was talking about this at Bible study. Right. I don't I love being a Christian. What I don't like is that Christianity and what it means to be a Christian can be like so many people can say they're Christian but have like a weighted or unweighted understanding of what it means to be a Christian, right? And so like some of the things that come out of people's mouths, it's like you cannot really be true in your faith if you're saying some of the things you say, right? And this is not a dig on Charlie Kirk, right? But like one of the things that I would say would challenge this narrative that Charlie Kirk was an upstanding Christian and like truly believed in what Christianity meant is when he made the claim that empathy does not exist, right? Empathy does
let's
not
let's
matter,
let's
right?
move off of Charlie Kirk and talk about something,
Or, but understand like being a Christian is the embodiment of empathy.
brother. Like I said, no Christian is perfect. So even if Charlie Kirk did say that, that doesn't take away from all the good that he did, right? And do I believe he said it like you said it? No. Do I believe that you're being misled? Yes. I believe that you see clips on the internet, take it
Should
at
we
face
roll the clip?
value, and don't try to. Yeah, if you can find it, sure. Real quick on the last two topics, AOC calling for the end of individual stock trading. Right. The reason why I wanted to talk about that while Nas pulls that up is, we have, congressmen and women whose net worth has more than tripled in a decade. Right. Nancy Pelosi in particular went from 40 million to, I think, maybe something like 100 million, 100, maybe 120. And her husband is making these trades and, she's also doing it. This is a huge conflict of interest. Like we said that, congressmen and women are in that position because of their slant. They're supposed to view it a certain way. But when your net worth increases that much, you have to ask, who are you really serving? Are you serving your constituents or are you serving these corporations? So this is something to keep in mind. Or get rich. You should come in rich, not get rich. Your jurisdiction.
I'm right, and so my point on this topic would be I don't think that they should be able to stifle someone's ability to invest. I think for anyone holding a political seat, there should be more scrutiny and investigative nature of like how they're investing. But to say that they should not be allowed to invest in the stock market is essentially taking away one of their God given rights to be an American citizen. You have the right to invest in the market. That you can't be denied upon that. Now hear me out. Now hear me out. There needs to be some rules and regulations because we don't want to have this situation like Nancy Pelosi, which I think Nancy Pelosi is probably arguably the greatest offender of this because her husband is literally in trades. And if you're pushing a policy that enables a company to kind of have like a financial surge, then you're riding the wave of your policies, right? 100%. I don't agree with that. But to say that she can't invest, I think we're
We're
creating more
saying that
issues.
she can't stock trade, right? And it's similar to like insider trading laws that exist in public corporations already, right? Like the CEO of a corporation cannot say we're about to do X, Y, and Z, and then give that tip to somebody who makes millions of dollars. All we're saying is
And that
that
makes
that should
sense because they
equally
have direct
apply to
control over it.
Congress. That's just the same. The same thing should apply to Congress. That's insider trading.
But there's it's not direct control though, right? Like
Yeah,
the example would be um I'm trying to think. Well, that wouldn't be a good example.
environmental legislation is the clearest example. If we tell Exxon that they can't drill oil in such a way because this violates a government policy, that's going to directly affect their stock because it's going to be, yeah, government contracts are huge too. Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Right. And so that would be my point, right? Like, okay, if we can tie your trades to some degree of a public policy, then we're going to hit you with some stiff penalties, right? I would love that. But to say that like, nah, you can't do nothing in the stock market, that's crazy.
Nas, you know better. You know better than anybody that stiff penalties to somebody worth $40 million is just going to penalize the poor congressman more than the rich ones. Like that's if they get caught, if anybody brings a case, right? That's literally probably the biggest criticism from the left of the criminal justice system in the first place, is that it's classist. And so, no,
That's a
man,
fair
they,
point.
they
I
got
don't
it.
have
And
a
the whole
rebuttal to
market
that.
is connected to each other, anyways. You can't have a segment of the market increase without another segment decreasing in some type of proportion.
100%. Yeah, I don't know how they would even try to implement this cuz like even if you said you can't invest in stocks, right? Like nothing's to stop them from having, a proxy.
That's true. That's why whistleblowers are so big in like SEC suits with insider trading suits. I would say the same thing should apply to Congress. Like, yeah, yeah. Hey, I just saw Nancy Pelosi like act on this like whistleblower, and they get
Yeah.
whistleblowers get paid too.
I think Nancy Pelosi is a great example to use in this because if there's anyone that tore it up while being in a seated position, Nancy up
Yeah,
there, bro.
yeah. She's
Nancy
not the only one.
Nancy
There's
got
people
more
on both
money
sides.
than whole countries. Like Nancy is loaded.
Mitch McConnell also, right? There's people on both sides who are just completely embarrassing themselves. And then the last
Hey,
topic,
I was
did
just
you?
about to say, I actually gotta go, man. It's 10:15.
Oh, okay. Did you find the video?
Nah, I couldn't find it. I'll find it and then we'll have it for the next clip. But I did see it though. I'm pretty sure I got it probably somewhere on my Instagram. Charlie Kirk on empathy. But we can pick this topic up on the next one. I gotta go. It's 10:15.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna run through this last one while I'm still recording because I think he left just so he won't have to do this. I'm still gonna do it. So Trump has redirected $500 million to HBCUs. Right? He did this on Monday. He's directing that money, that 500 million, to historically black colleges and universities. Let me just share this real quick. Actually, it's not a video because it just happened. I don't think anybody's made a video. HBCUs and TCCUs. I never even heard of this until I read this. Just tribally controlled colleges will get a one-time investment of 495 on top of what is going on in the 2025 federal budget. totaling an increase of 48.4% for HBCUs and 109% for TCCUs. And this is not the first time. In his first term, he also increased funding for HBCUs through the Futures Act, which secured 250. Wait, can you see the new screen? He secured 255 million in permanent annual funding for HBCUs, increased funding for Pell Grants, and you can see all the things he did. And yeah, so the 500 million he's getting right now to give to the HBCUs are from already directed money, but the directed money was going to uh, like my other minority colleges. And now it's almost predominantly helping HBCUs. I think he's doing two things. One, he's doing this so people can say, like me, that he did something for black people. Because one of the biggest things that like left public advocates always say is name one thing Trump has ever done for black people, right? And now we have multiple things we can point to. Do I think he truly cares about black people and like wants them to succeed more than anything? Probably not, right? But this is something that is tangible, a direct effect. I think tariffs are indirect effect, but that help black people. But I think it helps black people. I think ending DI also helps black people. Yeah, that doesn't sound the best. Yeah. That's exactly. We should make sure policies are in place so we don't have to give a fuck who likes us. All right. He just, bro, like when you think of like that, that's such a powerful way to think because all Congress people are doing is setting the rules to the game. They can't tell you how hard you can ball in the game, right? So if they make this policy with this certain tax exclusion, put yourself into a position where you can take advantage of the tax exclusion. They're not hiding nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a victim mentality is my problem. Like nobody's actively trying to keep you broke, especially in 2025. Yeah, you're just broke. Yeah. I will say it's a difference between working hard and working smart. And I think that if you got three jobs that pay minimum wage, you working real hard, but I don't think you working very smart. And yeah. The other oh, go ahead. That's the thing. That's what I was about to say. You was about to say own the boat, but then you realized it was a slavery reference. Yeah. Bro, ownership is why America is the best country in the world. It's because anybody can own anything, right? And you can look at the Jews and say, like, that's why they have that type of like person or reputation. But a big thing, we don't even have to be trades. You could own a restaurant, you could own anything. Just own anything, keep it in the family, make sure it's passed down smartly so you avoid certain inheritance taxes. And just keep it Asians are really good at this. Asians will buy a nail salon, have it shit for years. Everybody in their family will work on it. They will live in one big old house, parents, children. Black people don't have that anymore. We used to, but we don't have that anymore. Like we move out as soon as we're 18. I think that's a huge detriment to somebody's finances. We need Yeah, you want to be grown, but all you kick them out. Yeah. But in Asian and Latino households, you stay with the parent until you're either married or like graduated from like graduate school. So yeah. Oh, go ahead and share with us. It's not that many of us doing that stuff though. It's just a loud minority, right? Death penalty, huh? But weren't you against the National Guard though? Oh, I can't remember. They're taking a break right now. Matter of fact, they're taking a vacation. That's a tough one. What you mean? Yeah, I think it's two things. I think like a vast majority of black people are left compared to like white people who are probably more 50-50. And the other thing is like, I can almost say I have black fatigue, like especially in like certain situations. Like I went to a movie. No, yeah. I'm just saying, I went to a movie the other day and these black kids came down talking. The movie 10, 15 minutes in. And came out talking, flashlights, all that. Like, I don't have no type of respect for the people around them. I was like, damn, I wish I wasn't black right now because right now y'all making us look like fucking fools. Like, damn. And it's the iPic. You know, the iPic is a nice theater. It's not like the AMC or Real. There's like motherfuckers having whole meals up in here. Like, come on now. But I think I did see that. I think you sent that to us in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. And then they were like, you better let us out. Or yeah. You better let us out or we'll fucking do that. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think the issue is, you know, obviously we think the kid is already here once they're conceived, but what you're saying to us sounds more like, what is it? When you make somebody not fertile, sterilization. No, that's fucked up. They got their head on right? Yeah. That's what it is. I mean, in most developed countries, you know, the birth rate is plummeting and their population's unstable. But the poorer you are, the more kids you have. That's always how it's been. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. The question is, are the rich black women not getting pregnant, or are they getting pregnant and getting an abortion? Yeah, yeah, gotta be. And when you're that, dang, Jeff just said he just landed, bro. Jeff's fired. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure they get pregnant. Yeah. Now, what if the successful black woman started to date more white men or like non-black men? Would you consider their kids like black? Sometimes, but it's not common. Serena Williams. Uh, oh, you think it's different if they're richer? To be fair, most rich guys don't date poor girls. Like the Josh Allens of the world. Okay, and nobody. Do you think that's because of the culture of the three races? Because in my opinion, like if I'm sitting back and I, you know, like I'm well off, if I am ready to settle down, I'm looking for somebody who's family oriented. I'm looking for somebody who's, you know, values their father, you know, all these different things. I'm not so sure that's as common in the black community as. Okay. But yeah, I was like, the good thing about being black is that it takes a lot to water down the race, like, as opposed to like white people. Well, I don't know if the majority of black athletes are with black women, just to be clear. That's actually a misconception. The majority of black men are with black. Yeah, the athletes too. People don't look at the Russell Wilsons. They draw attentions to the. I can't even name some. Who's an athlete married to? I mean, I can't name any married to white women. Who's a black athlete? Who? She was. Patrick Mahomes is iffy in the first place. Shannon Sharp was never married though. Yeah, yeah. I mean, nah, is he? He's got a girlfriend. She looked like black, maybe Mexican, but maybe white. Let me see. I could be wrong about that. I think the same place I heard that most black men are married to. Yeah. And let's pull up some stuff. Yeah. So this is Deja Nicole, Jamar Chase's girlfriend. She's in the WNBA. Yo, she kind of cold. Yeah. Dang. Wait, did you read out of ChatGPT or the AI overview? Yo, are you there?
My bad, but yeah. I mean, 41%. They say shit, but you know why? I think it is though, because it's just like less stress.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the main thing. You know what I'm saying? Which it might be. Shit.
Wait, 41%, and the other 60% do what?
It said 20. It said, wait, let me see. It's right here. It says
You break
28% are married. Black players are married to black wives, while 41.7 had non-black partners. Yeah.
Your internet's breaking up, bro. Dang.